Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Pro Radio Show. I'm your host, Amber Arms, and we have with us today Keith Lombardi from Philadelphia, PA. All right, today we have Keith with us today. Keith, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
Doing really well. Thanks for coming on today. You know, I really wanted to know a little bit about Keith the person before we really get into the real estate conversation. You know, who are you, as a person rather than just the agent?
Well, I was always very, blue collar. I started working at 15 as soon as I was able to, and originally from Northeast Philadelphia, and then moved to Drexel Hill with my parents, who still currently live there. And I was always actually a car guy. I grew up working on cars. My best friend's dad was a Ardmore Toyota technician, so he kind of gave me a little bit of my experience, and then it kind of grew into a passion. And that's actually what I did professionally. I golfed with my dad. Close family, we have a lot of close cousins and things like that, we would spend holidays with and always went to holiday parties and stuff. So, a close family. Real estate was really something that, was kind of out of the blue actually. But, I was in the auto industry professionally for, I guess you could say about 5 or 6 years. And still, appreciate cars and things like that, but it's not, just my forte now. It's more of a hobby now than anything. But married. I have 3 wonderful children, and a beautiful wife, and that's my everything. That's my motivation for everything that I do.
That's wonderful. And it's funny that you mentioned the cars. Actually, my dad had a very similar story to you. He started as a car mechanic for the first, probably 10, 16 years of his life, and then he also got in real estate. Although he's a property inspector, so he went a little bit of a different direction in the industry. But it's funny how it's a really good, introductory for people getting into, just working in business in general.
It's actually funny because I've come across quite a few people who have made that transition. A good friend of mine who does mortgages, and he has become my go-to lender in the industry, and we've just developed a really tight friendship because of it. It was the same situation. He was a mechanic, and he owned stake in a shop for a while. And, the industry just got tough on that side, especially for someone who does it full time, with cars and the warranties and all that kind of stuff. But, it's actually funny how often I've come across that dynamic of coming from the automotive industry.
Yeah, it seems more common than you would think, but, you see it all the time. It's very interesting. And so you mentioned, coming from, cars into real estate, most people would think that that's not a super common jump. How did you get involved in real estate?
So I actually was very fortunate to have given the opportunity to be a service writer for a shop. And that's where I first started getting my customer service experience and actually dealing with people and, not cars, which don't have a tendency to talk back or give you too much trouble. And then in a short period, I became management of that shop, and I was a service manager for about 3.5 years. And that was really when I got my hands-on experience in running a business, because it was a retail shop. So I saw pretty much everything on the day-to-day. When we had our first kid, she was in daycare, and anyone who has kids these days know that daycare is incredibly expensive. And then when the second kid came along, I actually had moved to another position in automotive. I was in wholesale sales for parts and equipment, and I love that job. And but when we saw what it was going to cost to put 2 kids in daycare, it was substantially more than our mortgage was going to be. So it just didn't make sense for me to work the hours that I was working, and then pretty much everything that was coming in was going to be going back out to childcare. I figured, well, I might as well just stay home, because then at least I'm not going to miss the milestones of my kids and all these things that people, who have kids, they regret not being there because they were working so many hours, and, they missed ball games and first steps and things like that. So my my wife's aunt was a Keller Williams agent in Connecticut who still held her license on a referral basis and had moved down back to Pennsylvania. And she said, have you ever given real estate a thought? And at that point, I thought she was crazy. I said, what do I know about selling real estate? I said, no way. And she's like, yes, but, you have experience in dealing with customers. You have a very engaging personality, and you're a very good problem solver. And I said, your customers that come deal with the shop are incredibly loyal. And I said, well, I'll look into it. So, I started seeing what was required of it as far as education and things like that. And, heard of some people who were doing it part-time and did a handful of deals a year just to supplement what they were doing in a full-time job. And I figured, all right, well, what's it going to hurt? At least if I do it part-time, a few deals a year, it'll always be something else I can fall back on.
Oh, absolutely,
and then Yeah, but, I realized very quick once I actually started doing it that, and like most things that require some type of education before you can do it, the actual experience you have in practicing it compared to what you learn in class is very different. They educate you so that you have the knowledge to be able to pass the exam, but putting all of that stuff into practical real life is very different. And I was fortunate enough to have met a couple of really, good agents at my first brokerage that were making a really good living and had been doing it for a substantial amount of time. And they said to do the marketing and to keep in touch with people, it requires a lot even to do it on the part-time. So I figured if I was going to have to put forward all of this effort to do this on a part-time basis, why not just give it a chance, go all in full-time, and see what happens. If it doesn't work out, hey, I can still do it on the part-time basis, but let's give it a shot. And luckily, my wife, we were fortunate enough that she had a good job and we were able to, get by while I made this transition. And, first year, did a couple of deals, it wasn't spectacular, but learned a lot. Second year, did a little bit more, learned some more. And then that was when I made my jump. I was with Berkshire Hathaway for a very short period of time. And in that time, a group of agents that I knew from my first brokerage, which was Keller Williams, had gone to Compass and had formed a team and were advertising that they were looking to expand the team. And I always had great respect for my team leader and his wife. I took some of his seminars that he would teach in Keller Williams, and just a very, very smart man, and always had a lot of respect for him. So, what really sold me about them is that they wanted someone not only that had the knowledge and the experience, but that it was someone who met with what the dynamics of the team were. They needed to fit in with the personalities on the team, but also that someone was very passionate about helping people and, putting focus on the community. And I thought that was really interesting because it was something that, there's a lot of negative connotations out there, unfortunately, about what we do as realtors. And, most of it's not true. And a lot of it is just, gossip and things that people see in movies and TV, and then HGTV is really what was the killer for real estate.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks that house hunters is how it really is in our industry. But, I had never been on a team, but I decided that, the brokerage itself and the technology and all of that stuff was just, it was too good for me not to take the opportunity, as well as being on the team with such a great group of people and people that I knew and I already had, a good relationship with. And it's been incredible. I mean, it's not only made me a much better agent, I mean, it's helped me grow my business exponentially. We've developed quite a reputation for ourselves as a team within the area, as well as, the brokerage itself. So, I mean, it's been incredible. It really has been a really awesome, the last few years.
Yeah, it sounds like you really got set up with a good group of people on, your first go around, which is amazing. A lot of people, when they first get into the industry, maybe they'll bounce around to a couple different agencies until they find somebody that they mesh well with. Sounds like you already, had that for one of your first ones, which is fantastic. What would you say, you mentioned that there's a big difference between what you learn and what you actually put into practice. And that's very similar for me in the insurance industry. That's what I do as my day job. What would you say that the biggest, thing that you learned actually putting into practice? What was the biggest difference that you didn't really expect, going into actually using it?
I would say definitely, the way that you develop relationships with the other agents that are on the other side of the transaction. Something as simple as, it can be an incredibly smooth transaction from start to finish, or it can be incredibly difficult. But in the end, we're supposed to work together. So I feel like you need to look at it as not just we are agents who are serving our clients, and I need to go above and beyond to make sure that my clients are getting the absolute best deal. And, I feel like the way that they kind of taught the fiduciary responsibilities of an agent makes you feel like you have to make sure that the other side is like held accountable. They almost make it seem like you're going to war, but it's at the end of the day,
Yeah.
we're on the same team. We're making sure that our clients are happy. And if we work together to either, make negotiations, or we make arrangements, or we do this little nuance or that little nuance, so that way both sides are happy. And, it was an easy, smooth transaction. Our clients are happy. We're happy. We got to know one another, so that way we know that if we work together again, we're going to be a good fit. And I think that was the difference, like when they're talking about, inspections, and you're negotiating for inspections, and, you make your offer, and then the seller has so many days in which to respond to either accept or to counter offer. They make it seem like it's just so like harsh, and it really isn't. Like it's difficult to describe. But I would say that was the biggest thing. Definitely just realizing that you have a much better chance of getting what your clients want by being a decent, good person than being like a really strong, firm, like, I don't take no crap from no one agent.
Basically, you both want the same thing, right? Like the seller's agent wants to sell the house. As the buyer's agent, you want to buy the house. Like at the end of the day, everybody wants the same goal. It's just,
right.
Navigating the journey to there and making sure that you work around all the bumps and obstacles along the way.
Right. And you're better off working together as a team as opposed to it being, it's not a standoff. It's not the Wild West out there like some people would have you believe.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. I've asked that question to a couple different people now, and it's definitely the most interesting answer I've gotten so far. So, thank you for your insight, of course. And, with you being an agent, what would you think that the real estate market looks like for 2022? We're coming into a new year here, coming into the spring market where things are going to start picking up. How would you say that things look in this year as opposed to maybe last year or the year before that?
Well, the last couple of years since the pandemic, real estate has definitely changed in a lot of ways. I myself, we service the tri-state area. 90% of the business that I do is in Delaware County in Pennsylvania. I'm also licensed in New Jersey and soon to be in Delaware. But where our niche is, and our team is based out of media, we have always been in an inventory shortage, but never to this extreme. Now, the biggest thing that everyone is talking about right now is the rising interest rates. And there's a lot of bad information out there. So the first thing that I tell people is that if you're unsure of something, whether or not this is a good time to buy or sell, you need to talk to someone who is knowledgeable about the industry, because if you just start looking for information around, you're going to find varying different opinions, and probably 99% of them are going to be wrong. A lot of people are panicking right now because the rates are going up, but you think of what your parents bought. Your parents bought their house, say in the 80s when interest rates were 16%, and people are seeing 5.25% and they're panicking. But it's still a good time to buy. The values are not projected to drop at all. Homes that are priced correctly for the market that they're in and marketed correctly are still getting a lot of activity in a very short period of time. And some of them are still getting, very high over asking offers. And I mean, so I think next year that we're more than likely going to hit a recession. And when that happens, the rates always drop. So, what I tell people right now is it's always individual. You always have to custom tailor what the plan is for each person based on their motivation. Do they have to buy or sell for a specific reason, or do they just want to upgrade or downsize, whatever it is? And then you build the entire, search and transaction around that. There are definitely still plenty of opportunities out there for people to get the home that they want, and, can still get it, within reasonable price. Now, obviously, depending on the area you're looking in, you need to be very careful if you're going to come in and be someone who bids up high over asking, and, take into account the area and appreciation and equity and things like that. But, a lot of people are thinking that they want to hold off. But at the same time, I say to this, if you decide to wait, and right now, say in a given area, you have 10 or 15 people that are interested in one home with the rates at 5.25. Well, what do you think is going to happen next year when the rates drop down to 3.25? Now, all of a sudden, you're going to be up against 40 other people in competition, and it's going to be that much harder. So you're better off paying a little bit more money up front in your interest rate and your escrows and your down payment, and then you just refi your mortgage next year once the recession hits and the rates drop. And that way you're in the house you want to be in, and you're not still out there battling, 6-8 months later.
Yeah, because I don't see the shortage in inventory being an issue that's going to be solved anytime soon. It's not something that you just build 10,000 houses overnight and it solves itself. It's something that's going to take time to be able to build up that inventory. Right.
And I mean, it's with the pandemic, one of the things that became tricky in our market is that there was a lot of people who were moving out of the city, and that was both Philadelphia, and we were actually very surprised to see the amount of people who came down from New York. And obviously the cost of living in New York compared to what it is here is, nothing in comparison. So they came down with a lot more cash reserves and liquid cash, and that's what has really driven the prices up. $600,000 on a house, in a nice area here is really nothing. What do you get for $600,000 in Manhattan? You get a shoebox.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a decent amount of that on the insurance side too. A decent amount of people coming from major cities moving out to, the suburbs or just a little bit further into the sticks than they're used to because, they got all this liquid cash that they can use, that they're coming from a higher, cost of living area. And then, they can come in and essentially beat out a lot of the other competitors. Right.
And so many, industries which, their answer to being able to work from home was always, logistically, we could never make this work. Well, if they wanted their business to continue, they very quickly found a way to make it work. And the amount of people who are now permanently working remotely, then everyone needed space. They needed space to have an in-home office where they could lock themselves away from their kids or, whatever, and be able to do their job.
Yes.
It's really what
especially,
caused,
especially as, employers realize that their employees are still able to provide almost the same, if not more efficiency, even from, not being in the office. That's huge for the employers because they don't have to, essentially maintain that office space anymore either. They don't have to pay for a commute for their employees. It's a lot less likely that employee is going to get into, a health issue from like an accident driving to and from work. So, it's beneficial for everyone all around, but it definitely impacts how people think about their living arrangements. What used to be, oh, this is fine, we're only spending a couple hours a day here, doesn't feel that cramped. So all of a sudden, they need a lot more space because they're actually spending most of their time there.
Right. And I mean, even us, we were very fortunate that, we're a very tech-oriented company, and we have an incredible IT team who, even when things were so up in the air with the pandemic, they were already creating new programs or, updating and changing the existing online platforms that we already had so that we could more efficiently work from home. So that as soon as, the industry opened back up after the 3-month hiatus we were on, we were able to hit the ground running. And, what they've been able to create for us, as far as, the Compass online tools and everything, it's been absolutely incredible. I mean, this is the greatest group of people that I've ever seen all working together, and the different, people that they've brought on that have been able to use artificial intelligence for some of the tools that we have. I mean, it's just been incredible, so it's been amazing. Robert Refkin, our CEO, is really just, I don't think I've ever seen another CEO who really genuinely puts 100% of his focus onto making it easier for his employees to work. That's what his entire model is based on, was how can we make things easier for the agent? And they really did. I mean, it's incredible. It's an incredible company to be a part of.
It sounds like it. That's fantastic. Just also leaning into the technology side of things, we do the same thing here at the insurance agency I work at. We're very, tech-oriented very much. Let's prepare for the future. Let's plan ahead and see what we can do to try and make things, a little bit more efficient for the employees. It's always fantastic when you have a crew that everybody is, on the same page about, what you're looking to do to make things better from both, the entire team all the way up to the top. That's just fantastic.
Yeah, and I mean, the other cool thing is that, all of the agents, we're also collaborative. We use Workspace, which is, basically like Facebook for your specific company. And there's a group for pretty much anything. If you could ever need to ask a question or ask for a referral for, whether it be for, a contractor or, someone who does, say, septic testing in a more rural area, or if, sharing listings that may be coming to the market or referrals out of state, there's just a really, really great group of agents. And, that was one of the other things that really I liked about Compass, was that, unlike most franchises, they don't just take on everybody. They want you to have done a certain amount of business and have a certain amount of experience before, they will take you on as an agent. And I really do think that we are the elite, when it comes to, agents out there. And that's been really cool. It's been really cool to see them grow from what was thought to be just an indie brokerage that would be around for a couple of years and then kind of burn out, to what it's now become, and what we have in market share in the industry.
Oh yeah, definitely. This episode is brought to you by We Insure Center of Chester Springs, Pennsylvania. With access to over 200 carriers, We Insure is ready to service all of your insurance needs for home, auto, business, life, and more. Simply call 484-207-6640. Again, that's 484-207-6640, or visit WeInsureCenter.com. Get your free quote today. Going back to one of the things that you had said earlier, you were mentioning about how back in the 80s the rates were as high as 16%. From somebody who's not, watching the real estate, industry over time, how does it get from, point A to point B here? Like, how does it get from 16 to, I think you said it was like 5.25 right now?
Right. So we spent a long time, especially over the pandemic, where the rates were at historic lows. A lot of people were running around 2.875, and there were some that were even lower than that. And then, inflation and, the conflict with Russia and Ukraine and, changes like that in the global economy is what has forced the rates to go back up. And especially on the financial end of it, when it comes to like the banks and what they're doing with mortgage bonds and things like that and the reserve, I would like to say that I'm a little bit more knowledgeable in that than I actually am. But, luckily we also are fortunate enough to work with some really good lenders and also people who kind of follow that on the financial end. So we're able to very quickly reach out to them and say, hey, listen, what's going on with the rates and why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? And that way, having those relationships, if we have a client who, is actively looking and wants to put in an offer, we can check what the rates are doing that day. So that way we know as we're writing an offer, we can draft the terms accordingly. But there's a lot of different reasons. I mean, we knew that they were going to start going up as soon as the inflation and everything started hitting. And, I would like to say that, hopefully they're going to get to 6 and maybe not go too much higher, but who's to say? We could very much be at 7% by the end of the year. But the only thing that I am confident in is that next year when the recession hits, the rates are going to plummet back down. And I think it's probably going to wind up starting this entire cycle over, where anyone who is considering buying is all of a sudden going to be out there because, if you're going to do it, why not do it when the rates are at 3% as opposed to, 6? And that's why,
right.
I think education is so important. When people are kind of on that cusp of should I do it or should I not, it's better. You're better off talking to someone who's either is a mortgage broker or who is an agent, or someone who's in the financial sector who understands what's going on in the market and can say, well, look, this are the positives of doing it now, this is the negatives, and vice versa, rather than just, leaping blindly.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point, actually, just making sure that you have an agent that's well-versed in, just the entire industry as a whole. I feel like that a lot of people specialize in, one part of it or maybe one or two parts of it. But it really sounds like that you guys have, just a general good understanding of the industry as a whole, not just from, getting an offer written and getting it under contract, but also, the financial side of it as well. That's pretty interesting.
Well, one of the things that, I do differently, and I'm not going to say that I'm the only one that does this because I do know that there's some other businesses that are real estate oriented who kind of have this, the way that they form these relationships. But one of the biggest niches that I think that kind of makes me stand out, and especially with Joe Fasciolo, who is my lender partner, is that we like to do a little bit more work up front and kind of tailor the entire thing to a more long-term goal. So we've been trying to form referral partnerships with financial advisors that cover a different range of markets. There's some of them that specialize in retirement planning. Then there's some that specialize in second homes. I've met some who, handle a specific type of clientele, where they have to have so many assets before they can be a client of theirs. Some that do estate planning and things like that. So what we actually have begun doing, and we've been doing it for probably the last year and a half or so now, is, we ask a little bit more questions up front. This is a first house. Well, are you planning on staying in this house, for 5 years and then upgrading? The 5-year house is really no longer. Mostly now it's become 8 to 10. You're getting married. You're having kids. Okay, well, do you plan on upgrading in a certain amount of time? Or do you think that you're going to want your kids to go to college? You want to have a beach house someday, or you want to have a house up in the Poconos. Or sometimes you get people that want to get into real estate investing. Eventually they plan on purchasing a multifamily property, or, they want to get into doing fix and flips and stuff like that. So by having that information, we can then say, okay, so, you want to be in this home and you want to be in an area where you're going to probably have kids and, you're going to be here for 10 years. So, school district is going to be important because they will be going to their first couple of years of school in the area that you're in. But then you plan on upgrading. So, instead of taking, everyone thinks now we'll just go in, we'll throw out a big number and we're going to put down a huge down payment. We say, okay, listen, well, why don't we do this? We can still get your offer accepted by doing a standard 5% down conventional loan, and we can be creative with the terms and other ways that makes your offer stand out against your competition. But after we do this, we're going to set you up with this person who is going to help get you set up with, an investment account or, 509 life policies for your kids, which they could borrow back against for college funds, stuff like that, or they can help you set up a retirement account, a separate Roth IRAs and things like that. And that way we're thinking more long-term. And in the process of them, going under contract on a house, they also may have thought about things that they had never considered before. And now they feel, not only did I get my house, but, now I have a retirement plan set up, I have life insurance, which is, makes me feel more comfortable. God forbid something ever happened to me, that the kids and my spouse would be taken care of. Or, we have an investment account where, some of our savings, we're actually making money with it instead of it just sitting there collecting interest and getting very little return. And that has also helped bring them back to us because they're thinking, wow, they're looking more long term. They're thinking about where I'm going to be in 10 or 15 years. And it's been really cool to be a part of that, because I don't think it's something that a lot of other people in my position as an agent are really doing, and even on the lending side. And so it's been really cool to hear people's reaction to, that pitch. And even, the financial advisors have been really awesome in saying, I think you guys are doing something that's so different but so smart, and have been very receptive to it. And it's definitely become a niche of ours.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good situation that you guys have going on. You're really helping the client not just, get the house, but also, try to get them towards the actual goal that they're trying to accomplish with the house. It goes beyond just, okay, we did the contract, okay, we're out, we're done. Call us if you're looking to buy or sell again in the future.
Right.
A lot of agents, they're there just for the contract or just for finding the house, and then, they kind of, drop off and do their own thing until they're needed again. But it really feels like that you guys really want to go that extra step to try and make sure that they're actually getting to where the goal that they're actually trying to accomplish. I need a house that fits my kids. I need, I want to get a second vacation house at some point. I want to, get a house that I can then, upgrade in 8 to 10 years, whatever the situation may be. I'm trying to downsize for retirement. I'm trying to upgrade because I don't have enough space. Just whatever that goal is, being able to see that through, and having that expertise to help your clients see that through, because sometimes it can be hard. These are major decisions people are making in their lives, and, forming their entire, life's goals around trying to accomplish this, and having that expertise help them do that is actually a pretty cool thing, actually. It's definitely one of the first times I've heard that, and definitely a unique thing that you guys got going for you.
Yeah, and I mean, it wasn't something that we even created just thinking about it in terms of getting business. We started doing it because we did it first. Joe bought his home with me in Newtown Square, and, he had some investment properties, but we were discussing maybe some other things that we would do together business-wise, which then had him thinking more long-term. We want to upgrade to a bigger house from where we are. We have the 3 kids now. We like going to the beach. We're fortunate enough now that, my in-laws have a condo down the shore, but now that our family's growing and her sister's married and probably going to be having kids, it's not always ideal in terms of size. So we would like to have something that, we could call our own and maybe rent it in the off season. So it was just kind of thinking about what our goals were in the future and what we wanted. And we realized, we're doing it for ourselves. Why shouldn't we be helping our clients do this as well? It's been awesome. And it probably sounds very cliche. But we also just really, we like what we do, and we really do care about the people that we're trying to take care of. I don't have one client that I don't keep in contact with, that I now consider a friend, and some that I've become so close with, I consider them family. So we really just do genuinely care about our clients and taking care of them and their families. And that also goes with the team as well. Even though we're a team of agents, we consider ourselves a family. We actually are having an in-person team meeting today, and we're doing it in person. And, we're going to, because we haven't seen each other in a while, and we're going to hang out, and we always have a good time. So I think that, that really counts for something as well. Unfortunately, you do hear kind of horror stories sometimes about bad experiences with agents. And there's a lot of people who get into the industry because they think that it's easy to make a lot of money. And you learn very quickly once you get into it that it's not as it seems. And I think that's actually one thing that's been good about this market, is because it is a little bit tougher. It's been weeding out some of the part-timers or maybe newer agents that didn't realize what it takes. And, those people who are full-time and really put in the work and the grind and the hustle are the ones who outlast, when you get into a tough market like this.
Yeah, you mentioned that it is a tough market. What would you say is the biggest challenge your clients have been facing in today's market?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing, it's staying motivated, because, like you said, this is such an emotional thing, and it doesn't matter whether it's a first house or a last house. Moving, it can be such a trying thing between, getting something under and then packing everything up and moving and then unpacking and settling. And it really can take a toll on you. So when you're out there looking and, you know, you find a house that you love and it's everything that you've always wanted, but then you find out that there's 30 other people that have seen it and they're interested in it too, that right there is tough. You know, you see these offers that some of these people are making and, you know, your client can't compete. You know, they don't have the amount of liquid cash available to offer over asking and cover an appraisal gap. So you know right away before you even write the offer that they don't have a chance in getting it. And that can be devastating. Now consider doing that 3 or 4 times, you know, because I've had clients that had to offer on 6 or 7 houses before they got it. And that's even with some of the creativity we have in our offers. But the only thing I can tell them, and I'm sure some of them probably want to smack me because I say it so frequently, is that if it doesn't happen now, it's because it wasn't meant to be. You know, the right house is still out there for you, and you just have to remember what your end goal is. And it can be very frustrating, but, you know, I'm here to support you and, you know, give you advice, and we're going to, you know, keep at it.
We're going to make it all the way.
Right. And eventually it does happen. You know, it can take a little bit, but it does happen. You know, I have clients now who are both police officers, so they're already in a completely stressful situation in their day-to-day job. And I think it was probably 11 or 12 houses before they finally went under contract on their home. But now they absolutely love it. And they said it was the perfect house. And, you know, I'm glad the last one didn't work out because then we never would have got to this one. You know, so you gotta remember what the end goal is, and you just gotta stay motivated and, you know, stay out there and keep grinding.
Absolutely. And, you know, Keith, I really appreciate you coming on to the show today and, you know, essentially giving us the insight, you know, who Keith is as an agent and on a team. If somebody wanted to get in contact with you, maybe either to sell their house or to try and get something in this crazy market, you know, what would be the best way to contact you?
Definitely, I would say, you know, call, text, or email. You know, so my team's name is the Affinity Real Estate Team. So you can find us by Googling the name, or you could Google my name, and I'm going to be one of the first things that comes up as part of the team with Compass Real Estate. And that's Keith Lombardi, just like Vince. You know, you can reach me by phone, 610-955-1387, or you can email me, keith@theaffinityteam.com. And, you know, we have a big Facebook page as well. So you go on Facebook and type in the Affinity Team or my name, and all my links are going to come up as well. Instagram, Twitter, everything.
That's wonderful. You're going to be able to find you anywhere. That's amazing.
Pretty much.
Well, again, I appreciate you coming on to the show today. I appreciate your time, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you again for coming on.
No, it was great. I really had a lot of fun doing it. So you do the same, and hopefully we can talk again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You too. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.